We do something probably thousands of times a day, every single day, with barely a second thought. We just open our mouths and let it happen.
Right, it's completely automatic.
Exactly. We treat it like breathing or walking or, I don't know, blinking. It's just a background process of being a human. But what if that completely ordinary, everyday action was actually like the absolute highest stakes activity you engage in?
That is a terrifying thought, honestly.
It really is. So welcome back to our deep dive. Today, we have a custom-tailored exploration specifically for you, the learner. We are unpacking a pretty fascinating translation of a text from August 2023.
Hmm.
It's by an author named Feng, and it's titled with, honestly, deceptive simplicity. It's just called Let's Start Learning to Speak.
Yeah, that title really is a Trojan horse because, as you pointed out, we rarely treat speaking as a high-stakes practice. I mean, for most of us, talking is just a utility, right?
Sure, totally.
It's a tool to order a coffee, or a mechanism to complain about the weather, or just a way to survive a really mundane Tuesday afternoon meeting. But this text, it just shatters that casual framework before you even get past the first paragraph.
It really does. The opening of this text completely threw me because I was expecting, a standard communication guide, like something out of a corporate seminar on how to win friends and influence people.
All right, like a networking manual.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't start with networking tips at all. It starts with a literal, heavy spiritual confession.
Yeah, it's quite intense. The author, Feng, opens the entire document by explicitly repenting to the greatest creator. Like he is publicly apologizing for having uttered improper words in his past.
Which is such a vulnerable way to start a text about communication.
It really is. And he goes on to make this solemn vow to speak cautiously from now on, specifically to avoid creating suffering through inappropriate words. And by opening this way, he immediately signals to the reader that we aren't just looking at a secular guide to being polite. We are diving into speech as a profound spiritual and existential discipline.
That opening completely shifts the lens. It's no longer about sounding smart or, I don't know, being persuasive in an argument. It's about the very real, tangible suffering we put out into the world. Which kind of brings us to the core of why the author thinks we need this extreme caution.
Because of the power words hold, right?
Exactly. According to the text, words possess an immense, almost supernatural dual power. They are this incredible force of creation, but simultaneously a terrifying force of destruction.
Yeah, the text paints language as the ultimate double-edged sword. It requires incredible reverence to wield properly.
I was actually picturing it like a surgeon's scalpel. Words aren't just empty vessels carrying information. They're incredibly sharp
No,
instruments.
that's a great analogy.
Thanks. I mean, you could take a scalpel and perform a life-saving surgery, right? Removing a tumor and literally giving someone their future back. Or that exact same instrument, in the wrong hands or with the wrong intent, can be used as a lethal weapon. It's the exact same piece of metal. The intent and the application change the outcome entirely.
Let's examine the life-saving surgery side of that scalpel first. The text outlines an incredible list of the positive powers of spoken words. It argues that words can revive life. They can turn around dire, hopeless situations.
Wow.
Yeah, they can bring light in the darkest of times and provide what the author specifically calls a spring-like warmth.
Spring-like warmth. I love that phrase. You can physically feel the relief in that description. Think about a time when you were completely overwhelmed, maybe trapped in a spiral of anxiety, and someone simply said the exact right thing to you.
Oh yeah, we've all had those moments.
They didn't necessarily solve your problem, but their words provided that warmth. It just, thaws the paralysis.
Absolutely. And the author goes on to describe how words can uplift the despairing, comfort the sorrowful, and ignite passion in desolate hearts. They can literally show the dawn to someone who is utterly lost.
That's beautiful.
It is. And here is where the spiritual stakes of this text become crystal clear. It states that some words can even lead a person to enlightenment. By speaking properly, you can actually help someone become a Buddha or a celestial being.
Okay, wow. So your words can literally elevate someone's soul to a divine state. Talk about pressure, right?
Just a little bit.
But we do have to look at the other side of the scalpel, too, the dark side. And Feng really does not hold back on the destructive capacity of human speech.
Not at all. Conversely, the text warns that words spoken from human mouths can subtly kill. They can distort truths, provoke chaos, and shatter someone who is hopeful into absolute desperation.
Let's pause on that phrase, subtly kill, because that is just haunting. When I read that, it gave me a chill.
Yeah, it's a very evocative phrase.
Because physical harm is so obvious, right? If someone physically attacks you, there is a bruise, there is a broken bone. The damage is undeniable and everyone can see it. But this idea of words subtly killing, it's invisible.
Well, if we look closely at the psychological mechanics of what the author is describing, verbal harm acts like an invisible, slow-acting poison.
Right.
You don't see an immediate physical wound,
Hmm.
but the internal structure of a person's reality is slowly eroding. Think about passive-aggressive communication in a workplace or, gaslighting in a relationship.
Oh man, gaslighting is the perfect example of that.
Exactly. The text details how this subtle killing manifests. It breaks friendships, it blurs the line between right and wrong, and it slanders the innocent. It can literally, in the author's own words, portray black as white.
You are describing the systematic dismantling of someone's sanity. If someone is constantly chipping away at you with tiny sarcastic remarks or twisting your words so you don't even know what's real anymore, that really is a subtle death. You lose your confidence, you lose your spark.
It instills fear, and perhaps most tragically, it crushes a person's belief and confidence in life. And when you shatter someone's fundamental belief in life, the text argues you are leading them astray from the righteous path.
Which has huge consequences.
Massive consequences. The ultimate result of this negative speech is that it actually transforms individuals into malevolent beings.
Right, because hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
By speaking destructively to someone, you aren't just ruining their afternoon, you are fundamentally altering their trajectory. You are pushing them toward malevolence, and they will likely take that darkness and pass it on to the next person they talk to. It's just a terrifying amount of power to hold in your mouth.
And it forces us to confront a critical pivot in the text. I mean, if words have the power to create malevolent beings or celestial ones out of the people we speak to, casual conversation doesn't really exist.
Everything matters.
Right. But the author doesn't stop at the impact our words have on others. He brings the focus squarely onto the permanent impact on the speaker themselves.
Okay, I have to jump in here and kind of play devil's advocate for the listener, because I am trying to reconcile this ancient, highly spiritual framework with everyday modern life.
Sure, let's unpack it.
Say, I am having a terrible day. I slept poorly, I spilled my coffee on my shirt, I'm stuck in awful gridlock traffic, and I end up snapping at a coworker. Or I complain bitterly to my spouse when I get home. Is the author really saying that by having a momentary lapse in judgment, I am doing permanent existential damage? Isn't that a little disproportionate?
Well, if we look strictly at the text, the author is unwavering on this. Failing to master the art of words doesn't just harm society or your relatives. He explicitly states that it leaves behind boundless karmic obstacles for oneself.
Boundless karmic obstacles. Okay, but walk me through the logic of that. How does snapping about traffic equal eternal karmic bondage?
To understand the logic, we really have to grasp how the author views the mechanics of the universe. Shufeng views speech as a rigid spiritual law, much like the law of gravity.
Okay, so it's not a punishment.
Exactly. It's not a judge handing down a disproportionate sentence. It's just a natural consequence. In many Eastern philosophical traditions, there is this concept of samsara, the continuous cycle of existence or rebirth.
Right.
And the ultimate goal of spiritual cultivation is to break free from this cycle.
And you're saying our words are what keep us trapped in it.
Right.
So think of it like spiritual compound interest. Every toxic word you say isn't just a bad moment that evaporates. It's a debt you are forcing your future self to pay off.
That's actually a brilliant way to frame it. The text argues that these karmic obstacles make escape from the cycle of existence unattainable. Your words are the bricks, and your tone is the mortar.
Wow.
If you speak destructively, you are actively building the walls of your own prison. You are cementing yourself to suffering. And this is why the repentance at the beginning of the text carries so much weight.
Oh, that makes so much sense now.
Right. The author isn't just saying, I'm sorry I was mean. He is saying, I'm sorry I've been actively sabotaging my own spiritual liberation.
That is a massive paradigm shift. And because the stakes are so high, literally tying you to the cycle of suffering, the text doesn't just leave you guessing. It provides a literal blueprint for how to speak.
A very detailed one, too.
Yeah. It categorizes speech into 8 things we should never say and 8 things we should always express.
The symmetry in this blueprint is really fascinating because for every destructive force he identifies, he provides a direct, creative counterforce.
Now, we could just read off all 16 points like a grocery list, but I think the real value here is looking at the friction between what this text demands and what our modern society actually encourages.
Oh, there's a lot of friction there.
Right. For example, Let's look at the ban on complaining. One of the 8 nevers is never utter words of complaining or grumbling, never utter words of resentment.
And this is a point of massive friction with modern psychology. Today, we are often encouraged to vent. We are told that complaining is a healthy release valve for our emotions.
Right? We have entire relationships built around mutual venting. I mean, we get together for drinks specifically to complain about our bosses or the economy, and it feels good in the moment. But this text views complaining as a severe karmic trap. Why?
Because from the perspective of spiritual cultivation, venting doesn't release the negativity, it reinforces it.
Wait, really?
Yes, every time you complain, you are digging the neural pathway of misery a little deeper. You are broadcasting an energetic signal of resentment into the world, which, according to the law of karma, will only attract more things to resent.
Oh, wow. So you are telling the universe, I am a victim. And the universe says, okay, let me give you more proof.
Precisely. And to counter this, the text gives us the corresponding positive rule. We should wholeheartedly express words that are positive, optimistic, and encourage a beautiful life.
It's almost like a physical therapy program for your speech. You have to catch the complaint before it leaves your lips and consciously replace it with optimism.
Exactly. It takes a lot of active effort.
Let's look at another friction point, because this one really surprised me. The text groups sarcasm and mocking speech in the exact same category as threatening, violent, and crime-inducing speech. It says we should never utter them.
Yeah, that's a tough one for a lot of people because in our culture, sarcasm is worshipped as a sign of high intelligence. It's basically the default language of the internet.
It is. But the author is essentially saying that sarcasm is just a socially acceptable form of violence. Its fundamental nature is to cut another person down. It's the subtle killer we talked about earlier.
And notice what the author offers as the positive counterforce here. He doesn't say you have to be solemn and serious all the time. One of the 8 always rules is to speak words that are humorous, fun, and induce laughter.
I love that distinction so much. The author isn't anti-humor. He's just anti-mockery. Sarcasm tears someone down for a laugh, but genuine humor elevates the spirit of everyone in the room. We want to be laughing together, not laughing at someone's expense.
It really highlights the incredible breadth of the author's worldview. I mean, within these rules, he bridges the gap between the mundane and the cosmic so seamlessly.
What do you mean?
Well, on one hand, you have this everyday interpersonal advice. Don't gossip, don't be pessimistic, use uplifting humor. But on the other hand, you have strict cosmic rules. Like, one of the nevers is to never blaspheme Buddha, God, deities, masters, or ancestors.
Really?
And the balancing always rule for that is to actively praise Buddha and God.
It's so interesting that it treats water cooler gossip and cosmic blasphemy as symptoms of the exact same spiritual sickness. They both originate from a lack of reverence. So, okay, if we follow this blueprint, if we replace our pessimistic gossip with joyous, heartwarming praise, are we in the clear?
Unfortunately, no.
Of course not.
Having the script isn't enough. The text introduces a final hurdle that might actually be the most difficult part of this entire philosophy. How you deliver the lines matters just as much as the words themselves. The text explicitly states that speaking is an art and a form of cultivation.
I was trying to conceptualize this, and I came up with another analogy. Having the right words but the wrong tone is like a world-renowned chef serving a Michelin star meal, but serving it on the lid of a dirty garbage can.
Oh, man. That is a very visceral image.
Right. But think about it. The food itself, like the truth of what you are saying, the factual correctness of your words, is technically perfect. It's perfectly seasoned. But because of the presentation, because it's served on a trash can lid, absolutely no one is going to want to eat it. The presentation entirely corrupts the perfection of the meal.
That perfectly encapsulates the author's point about the delivery mechanism. The text details that apart from speaking words that are beneficial, your tone, your expression, and your attitude are absolutely crucial. He provides a specific formula for delivery, which is a gentle tone, a friendly expression, and a soft attitude.
And the text makes an incredible promise here. It says that if you use that specific formula, gentle, friendly, soft, you can even criticize someone, and they will find it easier to accept.
Which is huge, because offering criticism without triggering the other person's defense mechanisms is arguably the hardest thing to do in human communication.
Oh, without a doubt.
But the author is suggesting that the spring-like warmth of your delivery can actually bypass the amygdala hijack. You know, when someone yells or uses a harsh tone, our brains don't even process the words rationally. We just perceive a threat and immediately put our walls up.
We've all experienced that. If someone comes at you with a stern expression and a disdainful attitude, you immediately stop listening and just start planning your counterattack.
Mm.
And the author explicitly warns against this. He says a harsh tone, aggressive attitude, or hysterics will just ruin everything.
And this leads to the most practical, fascinating paradox in the entire piece. The text states that if you use a harsh tone or a disdainful attitude, even if the words you are speaking are 100% truthful and beneficial, people will find them challenging to accept, and it will incite resistance.
So being factually right isn't enough.
Not at all. Truth without compassion is just cruelty. Truth is utterly useless, according to this framework, if your delivery causes the other person to raise their shields.
Wow.
If your disdain makes them resistant, you haven't helped them. You haven't performed life-saving surgery with your scalpel. You've just slashed them with your factual correctness. You've created conflict.
Which goes right back to the beginning of our conversation. If you create conflict, you are creating karmic obstacles for yourself.
Yeah.
Even if you were factually correct.
Exactly.
If you were a jerk about delivering the truth, you are still tethering yourself to the cycle of suffering. You served the truth on a garbage can lid, and now you have to clean up the mess.
This is exactly why the author calls speaking a form of cultivation. Cultivation isn't a one-time event. It implies a daily, ongoing practice, like tending to a garden. You have to constantly pull the weeds of your own harsh tone, your impatience, and your disdain.
So what is the ultimate payoff for doing all this exhausting emotional labor? Because it sounds like a lot of work. The author brings it all together at the end with a pretty clear verdict on how this affects the trajectory of our lives, right?
He does. The summary provided in the text is stark but very hopeful. In life, those who are unable to speak properly, those who succumb to the negatives, who complain, mock, and use harsh tones, will inevitably face difficulties and setbacks. They are unconsciously creating their own resistance in the world. People will naturally push back against them.
And on the flip side,
On the other hand, those who master this art, those who are articulate, meaning they master both the positive words and the gentle delivery, will have distinct advantages. The text promises they will be a breath of fresh air to others, and by doing so, they pave their own way to a bright future.
a breath of fresh air. I think everyone listening knows someone exactly like that. When that person walks into a room, the tension just drops. You feel safer, you feel seen, you feel uplifted. They aren't magical. They are just actively practicing what this text is preaching. They have mastered the scalpel.
They really are living proof of the text's philosophy. This has been a profound exploration of a deeply challenging document. It takes an action we perform unconsciously and demands that we treat it with the highest level of reverence and total mindfulness. And as we wrap up our analysis of Feng's text, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over.
Oh, please do.
It's inspired by the very last line of the source material. The text ends with a direct question to the reader asking, "Have you learned to speak well?"
That is a mirror held right up to your face.
It really is. So I invite you to reflect on a recent disagreement you had. Think about a time when you were completely factually right about the issue at hand, but structurally wrong in your delivery. Did your perfectly truthful words end up creating a new karmic obstacle simply because you served them with disdain or frustration? Did your need to be right cause the other person to put up a wall? For the rest of today, observe your own tone. See if you can turn your next mundane conversation into an active practice of cultivation.
That is such a powerful challenge. Remember, every single time you open your mouth, you are picking up that scalpel. The only question is, what kind of procedure are you about to perform? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep cultivating, and we'll see you next time.